How's it going, Blake? Welcome, and thank you for joining us today
Yes, no
on our
problem.
little chat about linear algebra. Uh, why don't you take a second and introduce yourself to everyone? And when did you go to Lee? What'd you do at Lee? What'd you like about Lee?
Sure. My name is Blake. I graduated from Lee in 2023, so almost 2 years ago now. I was a math major. I didn't come in as a math major. I started as a cinema actually, and then I took a math class, and then I just completely switched to math after that. um, so I came to math a little bit late at Lee, but that's okay. But then from then on, I every class I took at that point was basically a math class to try and catch back up. But I enjoyed it. Yeah. I enjoyed my time a lot at Lee.
And what were you involved with outside of just class while you were at Lee?
I did band, sim band, symphonic band. I also did wind ensemble. I did wind ensemble for a year. I did sim band, symphonic band for 2 years. Um, and I worked as a TA for Dr. Gladden. So I was involved. I was pretty heavily involved in the math department um, while I was here, and some other clubs as well. But yeah, I got around as well. I got outside of the building, if that's what you're asking.
That is what I'm asking. Huh? Well, I didn't actually teach you in linear algebra, so I don't know what your answers will be. But what were your initial impressions of linear algebra when you took it back in the day?
I think a common answer is you don't think it's that all that jazz up. It's jazzed up to be like not that not that important because it seems like you're just like doing like I don't know. At first, you're doing just what you learned like back in high school, just over a lot of numbers, and it seems a little repetitive. So I didn't think it was that impressive at first.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a common feeling. Uh, but now that you have moved on to bigger and better things, uh, what are a few contexts in which linear algebra has risen in your life since you took that class, either in other classes or in your work now that you're a grad student at the University of Michigan?
So the first class I took at University of Michigan is called linear programming, and that made me realize linear algebra is the most. This is pretty much like if you're ever doing algebra ever again in your life, in the like after college in the real world, it's linear algebra like forever. Like it's yeah, pretty much. Like any simple example of algebra you do is just like a reduction of a linear algebra problem. Like you just don't have as many variables basically is what it is. In linear programming, we have these problems with there's like this objective function and we're trying to maximize this value, right? Like the value could be like, let's say you have this bag, right? And you have a set of items, and this bag has a weight limit to it, and each item has not only a weight attached to it but a reward as well. So our objective function is to maximize your total reward, but we're constrained by the weight limit to the bag. So in order to solve that problem, you have to formulate this thing called a linear program, and all that is basically just linear algebra, all that. And that's just a simple example with only like one extra line, like constraint. That's like a that matrix should only be like one or two by like three if you have three variables. But other LPs can have like an n by n size matrix, like just massive.
Yeah. The well, that's pretty cool. Why don't you tell us just a bit about how did you pick your area at the University of Michigan, and how'd you pick your advisor there?
Um, so first I'll say we're paired with our advisors as when we come in. So I met with my advisor to be at the time when I went in toured Michigan, and um, after talking with him and hearing what his research was like, he used that example that I just used when introducing, excuse me, linear programming. But in meeting with him more and reading some of his research paper, that's when I decided I want to go to Michigan, not only to Michigan, but to work with him as well, and he's been fantastic. Super super kind. And but I started looking into Michigan, specifically industrial engineering, because I knew I really 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 loved math at Lee, but I wanted the problems I worked on in grad school to be more real world per se, like not just completely theoretical like analysis, which I had done some in, not like I barely scratched the surface in an undergrad, but I think I would have enjoyed more concrete examples. So that's why I made the jump. I'm an engineer, but I'm doing math pretty much all the time. It's still just a lot of math.
Oh, that's funny. All right. Well, now that you've had, almost 2 years in grad school to kind of do linear algebra basically all the time, what do you think the most important takeaways are from your first linear algebra class? What are the things that you either took away from it that you've used a lot, or you wish you'd taken away from it that you've used a lot?
I had to so linear independence is very important. Specifically the basis of a matrix. I don't know if that's the word you guys use when you talk about it, but like the maximum linearly independent set of a matrix is really important. So remember, I remember learning how to find those, um, and there's plenty of different ways to find those. All those tools are definitely important. Ones that I did remember as well was properties of like the span of a matrix and such. I think those are properties that's also really important stuff that I neglected when I took the class. So I had to brush up a lot when my first semester of just like the properties of the span and how to find it and just everything to do with it. What else? Lastly, I'd say just memorizing like how to do like simple multiplications and stuff, but also like the determinant that always comes in handy. Like last semester, I took a test and I had to do the determinant of a matrix by hand. It's still around. Like it's never going away. So just knowing how to do it, it's good. It's just good to know how to do it, like forever.
You've, you've kind of addressed this already, but are there any other last words of wisdom you would give someone who's a current linear algebra student in their first linear algebra class?
So don't neglect what you're learning. Basically, is what I'd say. It's it is, believe it or not, like the one of the most important math topics there is. Like it is everywhere. Like yeah, if you ever doing math outside of college, that you're doing in linear algebra pretty much, in some form or fashion.
Now you're a bit biased because you work in linear programming, but of all the math classes you took in college, which are most useful to your life today? Like where does linear algebra rank in that list of classes that were most useful?
Pretty high. I couldn't give you a specific. I don't. It's hard to rank that. I gotta see a list of everything I took, but it's definitely probably top five. Like definitely, yeah. Because yeah, it could be higher. I need to look at a list, but it definitely could be. It's not towards the bottom.
All right. Well, thank you, Blake. Good luck with your end of your second year of grad school, and come back around Lee whenever you're in town.
Sounds good. Thank you.